State, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the state calls Marilyn Ocasio.
Marilyn Ocasio?
Yes. All right, Ms. Berry, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Swear or affirm the testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. May it please court. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Can you please tell us your name?
Marilyn Ocasio.
Would you mind spelling your last name for the court reporter?
Ocasio.
Ms. Ocasio, I want to take you back to September 18th of 2013. Does that date stand out in your mind for some reason?
Yes.
Approximately in the early morning hours, what was it that you were doing?
I was waiting for my coworker to come pick me up.
As you were waiting for your coworker to pick you up, where were you standing?
On the driveway, but at the sidewalk portion.
And is that the driveway to your house?
Mm-hmm.
And I obviously can see that you indicated yes,
Yes.
but because she's writing everything down, I'll have to.
Sorry, yes.
That's okay. When you indicate your house, what was the number, the numerical number of your house where you were living?
5002.
Okay. And you were standing at the edge of the driveway. What was it that caught your attention?
Well, I was looking at the sky, was as usual that I do. But when I turned towards my right, that's when I noticed thick smoke in the sky, or coming out. Like, it was just strange, thick smoke.
You had indicated that you were looking at the sky. What was the lighting like at this point?
It was dark, but at the same time you could see that the sun was coming up, so it was still, you know, like the sun coming up towards the east, and but still kind of darkish.
You mentioned that you saw thick smoke. Could you tell where that smoke was coming from at that point?
At that point, it wasn't, I could notice that it wasn't from the front, because the house is like sideways type thing, so it kind of looked like it was from the back.
So you were referencing a house that was sideways. Could you could you tell from your position at that time which house the smoke was coming from?
No, not none. I mean, it was close enough, so I was thinking it was maybe that corner house that was there.
So once you recognized or you saw the smoke in the sky, what was the next thing that happened?
My coworker eventually pulled up as I'm staring at the thick smoke, and I indicated, "Doesn't that look strange or weird to you?" And she looked at it, so I got in the car, and then we pulled to the front of the house. But since we didn't see anything and it looked like it was from the back, and it's a corner house, we went around it. And then that's when I noticed that it was coming out from the back.
Do you recall approximately what time this was?
Oh, maybe. Well, she normally picked me up between 6:30 and 6:45-ish type thing. It had to be around that time because or else we would get to work late.
You were describing the path of travel that you took from your house to the house that had the smoke. If I showed you a map of the area, would that help you explain to the jury where exactly you were and where the house was?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Ma'am, I'm approaching with what's been marked as State's Exhibit A for identification purposes. Do you recognize State's A?
Yes.
And is that a map of the area where your house is?
Yes.
Does it fairly and accurately depict where the houses are located?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the State would like to move what's been previously marked as States A into evidence of States number 1.
Any objection? This will be received without objection. State's Exhibit number 1.
And permission to publish.
Granted.
Ma'am, there's a screen directly behind you. If you could look over your left shoulder. May I approach the witness with the laser pointer?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ma'am, this is a laser pointer, and there's a little dot right here that will give you that little red.
Oh.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah.
If you could show to the jury where your house is located on this map. And that's where you were standing in that driveway.
Right there.
Okay. And so you had indicated your friend picked you up, and what direction of travel did you go in?
This way.
You had also mentioned that you had stopped at one point and actually parked the car. Where did you park the car?
Right here.
From that position, what could you see?
Well, we first went around the corner and stopped right here, and that's when we noticed the thick smoke coming out of the window and like the roof. And then she did a U-turn, and that's when we pulled in to the driveway and stood right there.
Now, as you're in the driveway looking at this house with smoke on it, did you or your friend call 911?
Yes, I told my friend to call 911, and I approached the house to knock on the door.
Okay. And you can put the pointer down. I appreciate it. When you got up to the door, describe to the jury what it looked like.
It was, I believe it was red. If I can remember, it was red. It had a screen door, and then I saw a lot of geckos, because obviously the smoke, and they were trying to run away. But you could see the smoke seeping through like the corners, and it was also thick.
Did you knock on the door, or did you retreat upon seeing that?
I knocked on the door, and there was a doorbell, so I rang the doorbell as well. But I guess because of the fire, it had maybe burned all the wires, and it didn't do anything, or it was broken or whatever.
And did you receive any response from knocking or ringing the doorbell?
No, ma'am.
Once there was no response, did you get back into the car?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did the two of you do at that point?
Well, she was still with 911, so they were asking her questions like, what street were we on? And then we went ahead and told her that the dispatch that we were on Turnbull, and then the other street, I didn't know the name of it.
And did you know what number house you were at that time?
No.
Members of the witness?
Yeah.
And I'm approaching you with a previously marked as State's Exhibit B for identification purposes, just so we're clear on exactly what house. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
And is that the house that you were at and that you knocked on the door?
Yes.
And does that fairly and accurately depict the house as you saw it on that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the State would like to move what's been previously marked as State's B into evidence of State Exhibit 2.
Any objections?
No objection.
This will be received without objection as State's Exhibit number 2.
Thank you, Your Honor. Permission to publish.
Granted.
And again, ma'am, if you could just look over your left-hand shoulder. And that's the house that you went up to and knocked on the door?
Yes.
Once you got back into the car, and your friend was talking to 911, did you wait until emergency personnel arrived on scene?
Yes.
And once they arrived on scene, what, if anything, did the two of you do?
We kind of stayed back. We kind of parked towards this side, and we waited to see if anybody needed to speak to us or they wanted to know who called 911. But once they were doing their own thing, so we were already running late, so we went ahead and left.
And did you go to work that day?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. At this time, I have no further questions.
Thank you.
No question.
Cross? No questions? All right, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. You're free to go.
Okay, thank you.
Call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the state calls Philip Angstrom.
Swear over and over testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
You may inquire.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please tell us your name?
Philip Angstrom,
Would you mind spelling your last name for the court?
Engstrom.
Sir, I can see that you're in uniform with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. How long have you worked for the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Just over 13 years?
And have you been a sworn officer the entire 13 years?
Yes.
Prior to that, do you have any law enforcement experience?
Yes.
And if you could briefly tell the jury about your experience prior to that.
I did just over 5 years in Baltimore Police Department, from patrol to narcotics, undercover, detective work.
Okay. Once you arrived, well, let me ask you this. On September of 2013, were you working in capacity as a deputy sheriff for the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
And specifically on September 18th of 2013, what were your roles or responsibilities?
I was working in the Uniform Patrol Division, so I was a patrol deputy.
And as a patrol deputy, is that somebody who's in a marked police car?
Yes.
And do you respond to calls?
Yes.
And is that a proactive response where dispatch will dispatch you to a call?
Yes.
At some point on September 18th of 2013, did you respond to 5020 Turnbull Drive?
Yes, I did.
Why was it that you specifically responded to that call?
I believe I got dispatched to a house fire.
And was the house fire in your sector or your area in which you patrolled?
Yes.
Is that address, the 5020 Turnbull Drive, is that in Orange County, Florida?
Yes, it is.
Please tell the jury what you saw when you first arrived on scene.
Upon arrival, I noticed there were several Orange County Fire Department vehicles, trucks on the street, several Orange County Fire Department personnel with hoses around the house, and smoke coming from the windows of the house.
When you arrive to a scene where the fire department is already on scene, what is it, as a law enforcement officer, what is your job at that point?
Basically, scene security, keeping the public, it's also scene for safety also, keeping the public, away from the fire, away from the fire department personnel, so no one else gets injured.
And do you pretty much let the fire department do what they need to do?
When it's a fire, it's pretty much their scene. I just basically cover like scene security.
As you were doing scene security, did something catch your attention in terms of coming out of the house?
Yes, standing probably directly across from the front entrance of the house, and I noticed one of the fire department personnel bring out an elderly female in a, I guess, kind of a, how to describe it, like a limp.
Sustained.
In terms of witnessing the person bring out the elderly female, what were your observations of that?
As far as, well, I mean, when I saw him bring out the female, she just appeared in a limp position. I didn't see any movement from the female.
You indicated that she appeared in a limp position. Is it fair to say that she was being carried?
Correct.
Do you recall how many individuals were carrying her at that time that you saw her?
I believe there were 2.
And did you see any movement from her whatsoever?
None at all.
Could you see where they had, I guess, placed her where you were standing?
Yeah, they had an ambulance on scene, and there was a stretcher, I guess they had brought up to the sidewalk in front of the house as they were bringing her out, and they placed her on the stretcher.
From the location where you were at, could you make any observations of her, and particularly into as far as if there was anything on her at that time?
From what I could see from across the street, it appeared that she didn't have any clothing on.
Now, at some point, does the fire department and their job responsibilities end and it become a law enforcement scene?
Once we have a victim, somebody's injured or death, then it becomes the Orange County Sheriff's Office scene.
And at some point that morning, did you contact a homicide detective?
Yes.
Do you recall which homicide detective arrived on scene?
I believe it was Detective Ben Thorp.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I have no further questions.
Cross.
About how many feet from the home were you?
Whatever the distance is from one end of the street to the other end of a normal street, I was on the opposite side of a typical neighborhood.
Directly across the street or down the street?
No, just across the street.
And were you there when the paramedics arrived?
I believe I don't know if they were already on scene, or like I said, there was just trucks, or Orange County Fire Department personnel arriving on scene, continuing to arrive on scene while I was there. So I don't know when the ambulance medical personnel arrived.
So you were not familiar with what was taking place, or didn't know what was taking place inside the home, were you?
No.
You don't know what the paramedics did inside the home in terms of Ms. Ortega's body, do you?
I don't believe paramedics actually went inside the home. I think it was just fire department. They put out the fire.
Fire department attempts inside the home to do any kind of resuscitation.
I don't know what they did. No, I wasn't inside.
And when she was brought out, she was placed immediately on the stretcher?
Yes.
Any other question?
Redirect.
None, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, officer. You're free to go.
Thank you, ma'am.
Call your next witness.
State calls Marilyn Jakubowitz.
Ariel, Jakubowitz? You're down
Help me for truth, total truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
I do.
May I inquire?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Can you please tell us your full name and the place of your employment?
Ariel David Jakubowitz, Orange County Fire Rescue.
You definitely need you to spell that.
Jakubowicz.
And how long have you worked for the Orange County Fire Department?
Over 10 years.
What is your current title?
Engineer.
What does an engineer do? What are your duties?
I operate the vehicle, run the pump, and all the equipment.
What were you employed with the Orange County Fire Department back in September of 2013?
Yes, sir.
What was your title back then?
Firefighter.
And what were your duties as a firefighter?
Fire suppression, ladder operations, and vehicle extrication.
Did you have to undergo any training to become a firefighter before taking on that role?
Yes, sir.
Can you briefly describe or give us an overview of what that training was?
It was physical training to condition your body to do these duties and do them under pressure so that you can do them efficiently.
About how tall are you?
6'6",
Approximate weight? Hate to ask.
approximately 350.
Were you employed on duty on the morning of September 18, 2013 at around 6:45 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
What station were you assigned to back then?
Station 72 that shift.
And where is Station 72 located?
It's off of Conway Road.
Did you respond to a residential fire at 520 Turnbull Drive in Orlando at approximately 6:45 a.m. that morning?
Yes, sir.
And is that residence in Orange County, Florida?
Yes, sir.
How did you get to the fire that day?
We arrived on a fire engine.
Like, who was with you?
I believe it was engineer Fully Love and firefighter Regis. I don't remember who the company officer was.
You sort of referenced a couple of different types of vehicles. What is a fire engine? What kind of vehicle did you ride in that day?
The fire engine is the standard for fire suppression. It has 750 gallons and a pump on it, as in relation to a ladder truck, which you've seen them driving down the road with a big ladder and the bucket on the top.
So it's not the ladder truck?
No.
All right. When you arrived, did you observe anyone else on scene?
I don't believe so.
So you were, if not the first, one of the first people to get there, is that right?
Yes, sir.
How long did it take you to get from the station to the scene?
Maybe a couple of minutes.
What observations did you make of the residents when you first got there?
Nothing that I can recall.
Just a standard residential house?
Yeah, oh, yes, sir.
Was there any smoke coming from the home when you first got there?
It appeared to be like a white, slow-moving smoke from the left rear corner of the house if you're facing it.
So what was your role as you pull up and exit your vehicle? What were you supposed to do at that point?
At that point, you grab a fire suppression hose line off the side of the engine, extend it to the front door, and then don your protective equipment and make entry. Protective equipment. And make entry to the structure.
Is that what you did?
Yes, sir.
How long do you think it took you to get your equipment on before you got to the front door of the house?
For the equipment, 60 seconds or less.
You said you also pulled the hose up?
Yes, sir.
How long did that take?
Seconds. We have a certain way we load the hose so it deploys quickly and it doesn't tangle.
So is it fair to say that once you got curbside, it was around 2 minutes or less before you started to go into the home?
I'd say approximately.
Now, did you make any observations about the front door of the house when you got to the front door?
When we got to the front door and we were prepared for entry, I tried the front door before attempting to force it, and it just opened.
Now, did you have to turn the knob?
I don't believe so.
And so it wasn't locked, is that fair?
No, it was not locked.
If it was closed, well, how much force did you have to use to get it open?
I just pushed on it. Seemed like it was more closed over than closed.
Closed over than closed?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So what did you do when you got inside the house?
Once we get inside the house, typically we make an inspection hole in the ceiling to look for fire over our heads, and then you start advancing the hose line to look for the seat of the fire.
Well, that sounded sort of elegant, the way you said inspection hole. What did you do? How did you do that?
You have a pike pole, big old hook and a spike on it, and you make a hole big enough to see into the attic space.
You jam it in the ceiling, move it around?
You jam it in the ceiling and you make a hole.
Okay.
This large or bigger?
After you did that, you moved further into the home? is that
Yes, sir.
correct? What actions, if any, did you take as you got into the home and encountered some sliding glass doors?
When I encountered the sliding glass doors, I went ahead and I smashed them open with that same pole to provide more ventilation and visibility.
Was there a problem with ventilation or visibility when you first entered?
Yes, there was none.
Can you describe to the jury what it was you saw and what the conditions were like in the home when you first got inside?
Yes. The smoke had pushed down from the ceiling. For me, it was below eye level. I'm tall. And it was pretty white, maybe a light gray, and couldn't see much. But it was enough that you could see the light coming in through.
Do those conditions indicate anything to you about the length of how long the fire has been burning or the situation at that point?
If it's a lighter smoke, the fire hadn't been burning long.
Had or
Had not.
Okay. After you knocked out the back door, did you notice anything about the floors in the residence?
Yes, they were extremely slick.
And when I approached the witness with the previously marked as states exhibit C, has been shown to counsel.
You may.
Mr. Jakubowitz, I'm going to show you a diagram that's marked as states exhibit C. Could you take a moment to look at it, orient yourself, and tell me if you recognize it?
Yes, sir.
And what do you recognize it to be?
It appears to be the house in question.
The layout of the house at 5020 Turnbull Drive?
Yeah, this looks like a fairly accurate floor plan,
It is fairly accurate to your knowledge?
to my knowledge.
Yes, sir. At this time, the state would ask the court to admit states exhibit C, states free.
Any objection?
No objection.
This will be received without objection as State's Exhibit number 3.
You have permission to publish states free to the jury?
Granted?
Mr. Jakubowitz, I'm going to hand you a laser pointer and ask you to turn and show us where you went on the path you took through the house, through the home on the morning of September 18th. Did you, and it's still awkward to testify, so if you need to turn back and forth, it's fine.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us or show us where the front door of the residence is that you went in?
That would be the front door.
All right, and you mentioned that you walked in and you eventually knocked out or punched out some sliding glass doors. Where were they located?
They would be located on the back end over here, sir.
All right, and did you have to pass the kitchen to get to the glass doors?
Yes, sir.
Where's that at?
It's right there.
Now, after you knocked out the doors with visibility, in which direction did you travel?
We traveled to the left down this hallway. The smoke had been pushing forward out of this area.
All right, so is the reason you went down that specific hallway because that was where you thought there was an origin of the fire?
Yes, sir.
And I think you might have said this, but in case you didn't, why did you go in at all?
Into the house
Yes.
to protect the property and see if there's any life safety issues.
Okay. Let's see if anybody's alive inside.
Oh, absolutely.
Understood. So you start making your way down that hall. What did you encounter as you started walking down the hallway?
We encountered some active fire. We could see it through this area right here. They opened the hose line and started putting fire on it. And then we proceeded to check into this room and this room visually to see if there were any victims.
Did you eventually see a person or the figure of a person in one of those rooms?
Yes, sir.
In which room did you see the person?
It would be this room right here.
Now, was the person immediately visible to you?
Not immediately. The smoke hadn't cleared out from there yet.
Okay. When you saw the person, what did you do?
Immediately tried to get their attention, shake them, see if they were responsive.
When you first saw the person, can you describe their positioning in the room?
Yes. The person was kneeling on the bed, or kneeling on the floor, facing the bed with their head and shoulders on the bed in like a praying position almost.
Okay. And you approached that person and you tried to shake them?
Yes, shake, yell, anything.
Did you receive any response?
No response.
Did you observe any signs of life by the time you got to that person?
None.
So what did you do? Were you able to tell immediately if the person was male or female?
It was like a nightgown type garb, so I assume female.
You assume it was a female. What did you do with the person after you tried to rouse them?
Immediately try and get them up and out.
Now, you a couple times said "we," so was there somebody with you at this point?
Numerous crew members.
Did you have any assistance in helping get the female out of the room?
Yes, another crew member. I initially picked her up around the torso, twisted her away from the bed. He took her under the arms, and I grabbed under the legs, and we proceeded out head first, her head first.
And you're in full uniform, the one we see on TV with the tank on the back, mask over your face,
Yes, sir.
fire retardant clothing.
Oh, yeah.
Did you make any observation of the woman's body when you pulled her up to carry her out?
It was limp.
Anything on her face or head that you observed?
Noticed blood on the gown, on the head, but didn't know the extent of the injuries. They could be minor, they could be major. We just want to get them out of that toxic environment.
Can you describe the person or the female size?
Petite,
Do you have any difficulty picking her up?
just more awkwardness. A limp body doesn't cooperate that much.
And so when you picked up the female, there was no movement at all, it felt heavy?
Not at all.
Did you eventually, or were you eventually able to carry her out of the front door?
Yes, sir.
What did you do once you got outside the front door?
Outside, the EMS crews were waiting with a stretcher and equipment.
Did you personally make any life-saving efforts on the female, or was that somebody else?
That was someone else.
Now, after you got the victim out of the home, did you ever go back inside the home?
I don't remember.
When you were in the home, well, did you ever check the ceilings with any of your other firefighters, check the ceilings for fire?
Yes.
And how do you go about doing that?
Like I said, we have specialized equipment that will breach through drywall, and you'll be able to pull it down. We rip the drywall off the walls because the fire will just sit inside and smolder, and we want to make sure it doesn't reignite, it doesn't spread somewhere else. So you make sure that it's all clear.
Does that process create some damage?
Yes, sir.
What about windows? Do you and your coworkers do anything for windows in a situation like that?
Yes, if ventilation is needed, the windows are broken out and the frames taken with them, possibly.
Did you have any occasion to open the drawers of furniture or pull anything out of closets in that house?
No, sir.
Is that something that you would ever normally do?
No, sir.
Unless you saw a fire in that vicinity, is that right?
Yes, if a piece of furniture or something was on fire, first you'd put it out, and then it'd be removed from the structure.
But there was nothing of that nature in this house?
Not that I saw.
Do you remember any of your other members of your team pulling drawers or anything of that nature, disturbing pieces of furniture in that home?
No, sir.
No further questions. Thanks.
Cross.
Did you see any accelerants in the house, any gas cans that are chemicals, anything to promote a fire?
Not that I saw.
Is that something you would look for?
It would be more something to notice as a hazard for our safety, or something that could possibly, turn a small fire into a large one. But I didn't notice.
But you would look for something like that for your own safety, correct?
We wouldn't actively search for it. If we happen to see it, yes.
Now, she was dressed in a nightgown.
Okay.
And when, that's your testimony.
That's what I
When
assume.
you carried her out, she was still in a nightgown.
Yes, sir.
So she was fully clothed in a nightgown, correct?
She was wearing a nightgown.
And there was some blood on her face?
It seemed like blood on her face and maybe the back of her head.
But you didn't notice any significant injuries, did you?
No.
And there was some blood on her nightgown?
Yes.
You carried her out, you didn't get any blood on yourself, did you?
I don't remember. It's possible. We were taught to decontaminate our gear if we do get blood on it. I don't remember.
You remember?
No, sir.
That goes quick.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Jakubowitz, as a firefighter, are you familiar with some of the ways to start a fire?
Yes, sir.
Does one need an accelerant to start a fire?
No, sir.
Simple match or lighter will work, right?
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
May this witness be excused.
He may, and he is released by the state.
Thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Thank you.
How are you all holding up? You need a break or you doing okay? You good? All right. Call your next witness.
And the state calls Christopher Henderson.
Christopher Henderson? I don't know what that is.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please tell us your full name and spell your last name?
Christopher John Henderson, Henderson.
And Mr. Henderson, where are you currently employed?
Orange County Fire Rescue,
And how long have you been with Orange County Fire and Rescue?
13 years.
What's your current title?
Current title is Lieutenant Paramedic.
And what do you currently do for Orange County Fire and Rescue?
I'm a lieutenant at Station 71, A shift. That's the officer in charge on the shift.
Okay, so you wouldn't have sort of command position over the other firefighters or fire rescue personnel?
Yes, sir.
Now, were you employed and on duty on the morning of September 18, 2013, around 6:45 a.m. with the Orange County Fire and Rescue Department?
Yes, sir.
Now, were your duties different on that day than they are now?
My title was engineer, which is the driver of the fire truck, but that particular day I was riding as the officer in charge. So same duties.
Same duties. And you were part of 2 units that responded to 5020 Terminal Drive on that one, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, what was your role, you sort of alluded to it, but what was your role on the scene that day?
For that particular call, we were tasked with getting a water supply for the fire. So we stopped at the hydrant, made sure my guys hooked into the hydrant, and then we proceeded to the scene.
And as in your position as a lieutenant, were you directing other officers what to do, or other firefighters what to do?
Yes, I had 5 guys underneath me.
Were you eventually asked to take measures or provide assistance from the exterior of the home?
Yes, sir.
What did you end up doing?
We were asked to be the RIT team, which is Rapid Intervention Team. In case something happened inside, we were to go in to save the firefighters. And also command asked us to ventilate the structure, release the smoke and heat from the structure to make a search.
And how would you go about ventilating a structure from the outside?
We broke out the windows.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit E and it's been shown to counsel?
You may.
Mr. Jakubowitz, I'm handing you State's Exhibit E. It's a composite of 7 different photographs. Would you go through them all and then look up at me when you're finished? I'm sorry, Your Honor, would you like to look at the exhibits before I review?
I've looked at it. I just want to make sure it was the right one. Thank you. No problem.
You recognize those exhibits?
Yes, sir.
The images depicted in them?
Yes, sir.
And are they fair and accurate depictions of the outside of the residence at 5020 Terminal Drive back on September 18, 2013?
Yes, sir.
At this time, Your Honor, the state seeks to omit State Z as State School.
Any objection?
No objection.
This will be admitted without objection as State's Exhibit Number 4.
Permission to publish State School, Your Honor?
Granted.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, I'm going to put the images up on the screen over your left shoulder.
Okay.
Make most of them sort of speak for themselves, but if you could tell us what area of the residence we're looking at?
I believe that's the front of the side, or the front of the house, or side A.
And that photograph?
I believe that's moving around to the right, which we would call side D.
And when you refer to A, B, C, D, that's A in the front, B on the right side, C is the back, and D is the left side?
Clockwise. So A is on the front, B is on the left, C, and D.
I got it backwards.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So they said this is the B side,
I believe that's D side.
okay? And what is that photograph of?
That looks like the Charlie side, or back side.
Okay? And publishing F4 of States Exhibit 4. Is that the same side?
Same side, yeah.
F5 of States Exhibit 4.
Yep, side C.
Mr. Williams, I believe this was marked as E, not F.
It is, but the individual photographs are marked F1.
All right, so let me just clarify that for the record. Thank you, go ahead.
No problem. F6 of States Exhibit 4. And what are we looking at in that photograph, sir?
That's the bedroom window on side Charlie C.
And you know, was that the window into where the victim was located, that room?
I believe it was directly inside there. That's the back side of the bed, the headboard,
Yes, sir.
and it was right in there.
And then one more photograph, photograph F7 of States Exhibit 4. That's a separate window, is that correct?
Yeah.
So going back briefly to F6 of States Exhibit 4, you said that is a window that went into the master bedroom where the victim was located?
Yes, sir.
Now, what are we looking at? Is there a laser pointer up there?
Yeah.
Down at the bottom, down to the left of the photo of the window, yes. What is that?
That's the window frame that we removed after ventilating. We break.
So you guys ripped the whole frame off the window?
Yes, sir. We break out the glass and then we remove the frame in case firefighters need to escape out that window. It's easy access.
Now, when you were at that back window into the master bedroom where the victim was located, did you have an opportunity to look inside that window?
Yes, sir.
Did you make any observations, or what did you see when you looked inside the window?
I saw that the bed there and that the bed was still made. And I also saw that the dressers had all the drawers pulled out and dumped.
As a lieutenant, is that part of any training that you guys received to pull dresser drawers out or anything of that nature?
No, sir.
So if anybody did that, it wasn't you guys?
Right.
Understood. No further questions, Ms. Leadership.
Cross.
How many windows did you break out?
2.
Were these windows fully, describe the windows, were they awning windows or slide windows?
No, they were slide and they were glass and aluminum frames.
Was there any damage to those windows prior to you breaking them out?
No, sir.
Any signs you might have tried to break into those windows?
Not that I saw.
Did you see any signs of any gas cans around the house?
No, sir.
Anything to be used as an accelerant?
Not that I recall.
No question.
Redirect.
Oh, yeah.
May this witness be excused.
You may.
Thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
The state calls Detective Ben Thorp.
You may. Ladies and gentlemen, while we're having this discussion, I'm going to let you all take a break, all right? Thanks.
You know cash on receipts.
I have no it says take a
Do his next thing.
We're going to stay at the bench for this one. No, there's no witnesses in the grove.